Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another iTWire video with top Australian IT executives. Today I have with me Daniel Cran. He is the APAC Director of LogMeIn. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm sure many people would already be well familiar with LogMeIn and even join me, but could you please just give us the short story of LogMeIn up until, we're now in late 2015, where LogMeIn is today?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, LogMeIn is a global company that we really specialise in simplifying how people can connect to other people and to devices, regardless of where they are around the world. And we do that through a product suite that ranges from remote access with our Pro Central offering, through to remote support with Rescue, through to Join Me, a remote collaboration tool, which we'll touch a bit on later. And then even now we're embarking on the IoT space with Lively.
And I remember 2 or 3 years ago when I was using the LogMeIn product, you could even log into Android phones and remote control those.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's still a beating pulse of what we do, and still a great part of the LogMeIn story.
Now, Join Me was launched a couple of years ago, and I remember writing an article about now you can join me and log in on Windows 8 or something when you launch the Windows 8 App Store.
Yeah.
But there must have been a lot of updates since then, and including the announcements of iOS 9 and Apple Watch compatibility. So please take us through some of those.
Yeah, look, I think the evolution of Join Me has been great for us in the sense that we're trying to push the boundaries. This ability to remotely collaborate and have meetings on the fly, and regardless where you are in the world, is such a crucial part of all businesses these days, and people regardless what role they have. So we've invested a lot into this whiteboarding feature where you can share some graphical interpretation and some drawings up and putting in some icons, and take that classic sense of when you all used to sit in a room and get on a whiteboard and everyone used to take notes or take photos. Having that as part of now this collaboration piece from a thing such as an iPad really pushes that boundary of now saying, look, this is about collaboration wherever you are at any point in time, and having ease of use. You'll see a bit later on, it's a really easy tool to use. It's really user friendly for someone like me to be able to use it as good as I can. It's probably a hallmark to how good it is.
Sure. Now, we'll go through some of the iOS 9 features in a moment, but what are some of those stats around people using physical whiteboards? I mean, we all remember the Ros Kelly affair in the 80s or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had this whiteboard, it was wiped, and then they had huge sales of the whiteboards with the fax machines built in so you could print out.
Yep.
But nowadays, people take photos, and then, what do they have? Just stacks of photos in their phone.
Absolutely. We had a bit of a survey commissioned and looked at sort of some of the stats, and you found that sort of 70% of people are taking photos of whiteboards in their offices.
Yeah, I mean, I read the stat said like some people leave it there for a month, some people leave it for a year.
Absolutely.
And then some people wipe it not realising that they shouldn't have touched that.
And I'm pretty sure everyone that's probably going to watch this has at one point entered a room in an office and there's stuff on a whiteboard with the lines "Do not erase," and that's just asking to be erased. So you've got 70% of people are taking photos of it. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
My phone is littered with photos from years gone past. Then what's even scarier is that 30% have more than 10 images on their phone. That's me again.
Yeah.
And then it goes down to 13% have more than 20 images on their phone.
And they don't necessarily do anything with them once they've...
No, and that's the challenge. I think the intention's right. People are taking the photo because they want to capture the moment and say, that's really good stuff. I like what John or Barbara's written up there. That's really terrific. But then you're right. They put it into their phone and it goes into sort of this ether of whether they either distribute it to some people, but not everyone, don't distribute it, or at the end of the day, don't really know what to do with it. It just sits on their phone.
Some of the context is lost too if they share it because they haven't got the other notes around. It's just a photo.
Yeah, and I think the essence of it is that's the very, I guess, the dawning of collaboration. Let's write something on a wall that everyone can sort of attach themselves to and maybe stand up and do a bit of their own writing.
Yeah, the caveman did that.
Yeah, but that's where it ends, right? And I think this frontier of collaboration we're into is saying how much more can you do with it when everyone's got access to that on the fly, on devices, and stops you having to scroll over walls and whiteboards in offices.
Well, that's probably the perfect segue to actually take a look at the iOS 9 version, which has some of these new features, and to get you to take us through those features and benefits.
Okay, so what we've got here is, how does that look? Is that...
Actually, just push it down a little. So there's put it like that's perfect.
Perfect.
Yep.
So look, this is. Let's assume I'm running a meeting, and what we've got in the background here is we've dialed into this same Join Me meeting. So let's assume this screen, for all intents and purposes, is my colleague on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk to him about currently what we're doing with Join Me and some of the marketing collateral we've got around it.
Yeah.
So
on
now
this, zoomed right in on that.
Terrific. And on this, we can. This is what we do before we host one of these meetings. Is we load up some of the stuff we're going to present, PDFs, presentations, whatever it be. We load it into the system so then when we're at home, on our home Wi-Fi, away from the office, this person's then at their office on the other side of the world, we just pull up what we want to run through. And we go through and we can zoom in and as you see it replicates for the person.
Just move it again a little bit there. Yeah, so they're screen sharing, well-known concept.
Right.
Yeah.
Where we've gone that next step further is we then say, right, here's this whiteboard, this infinite whiteboard piece. So all of a sudden now that, what we talked about just a bit earlier about everyone sitting in a room and writing up on a wall, we're now doing this real time. So we're now saying, right, we might want to talk to somebody and say, look, today we're going to talk about, pardon me that I'm writing upside down, let's hope I can do this. We're now going to talk about Join Me.
Yeah.
We then hit share for this.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is, now, even though it doesn't look like a J, my colleague on the other side of the world now sees what I'm going to do as a whiteboard. Now what's really good about this is, classic, all the different things you need, colours, different pen sizes for as much as you want. But what we really like is we've added in things like adding in icons. So all of a sudden, you might want to start talking about, well actually we're going to talk about different clouds. Right?
Hybrid cloud.
Exactly. So we're going to put that in there, and you might want to talk about as well a database that goes with it. So then we start to say, right, cloud, how does the cloud interact with the database? We can then draw in arrows and things like that. So what this enables is everything you've done in the past, where you're in a room putting up all your thoughts, your theories, your ideas, you can now do it here. And the beauty of it is as I touched upon earlier, and this is a real life thing for me, I work for a US company. So first thing in the morning, I've got at least 2 to 3 calls from about 5 in the morning onwards until I get to the office here. End of the day, my UK and Ireland team comes on board. I've probably got about 2 or 3 calls with them at the end of the day. So my days are bookend.
Yeah.
I'm like so many other people, family, I've got a 45-minute drive into work. I can do a lot of this stuff remotely. So I don't have to come into the office at 5 in the morning to make sure I can talk with my colleagues in Boston, and I don't have to be in the office till 8 o'clock at night to make sure I can talk with my colleagues in London. I can be at home, I can go to the quiet space in the house, and I can run all this, show them stuff, show them what we're at, put my thoughts out there, finish up by exporting it, sending it through them, giving them a recording, whatever we need to do. They've got it, they go into their work day. By the time I come in the next morning, there's some feedback from it, we go from there.
And obviously some of these schematics can be pre-drawn, pre-planned.
Absolutely.
You had some other examples there of...
Yeah, look, I think, you can have these ones pre-done, so you might, if you're, say we're an IT folks, we can bring up this thing here where we share, we start to bring up now a pre-drawn schematic of say some architecture.
Yeah.
And on top of that we can, again, we can sort of talk about things like saying, look, this is the area we really want to focus on today, guys. And just that really nice touch point in to be able to sort of almost be in their own presence as well, but on the other side of the world. And look, it's got all the classic things that the original Join Me laptop app had. You got the ability to do some side chats if people want to share some chat functionality. Mm-hmm. You've got the ability, you can always obviously see who's online, who are the attendees, and at the end you can before it starts you can record it, you can pass presenter on, you can do all the classic stuff.
And this has iOS 9 on this particular tablet, right?
This does indeed.
Let me just swipe across from here. So when we do that, if I tap Safari here, that is actually a full multitasking app as well. It's actually been updated specifically to work with the multitasking feature, which is going to be very handy when you're in a meeting and you're being asked to look up some stat from some email, and normally you'd have to, in the old days, you'd have to get out of the app, reconnect to it again, and now it's just there.
Yeah.
And that's a very nifty feature. So obviously with iOS being the dominant platform, for most people, aside from the fact that people use Windows PCs at work and Macs, but the features are coming on iOS first, and then you're branching them out to Mac and Android and Windows? Is that
yeah.
But,
so
but currently it's iPhone and iPad.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at with the growth we're seeing, it's 100% year-on-year growth out of Join Me. It means that, it's a product we're very heavily invested in, that we want to keep pushing the boundaries with. And, we like to think of ourselves as a market leader. The Frost & Sullivan reports show that type of stuff, that with that growth rate, we are pushing the boundaries. So this product for us, we're passionate about. We're going to keep doing more and more with it as the months and years go on.
Now you mentioned there's a free trial, but what's the short version of the pricing structure? And of course people can contact you for the full details, but what's the...
Absolutely. So if you're looking at someone's only going to get a couple of licenses of just the simplified Pro feature, you're looking at a couple $100 per license per year. Mm-hmm. And included in that is, you've got all your audio costs and everything. So it's not a cost prohibitive solution like some of our competitor tools. It's very much about saying, look, as we just talked about then, average Joe can use this, and you want to be able to have it accessible for anyone to be able to buy a license, run it, and not get hammered down by costs. Then if you're going up to the enterprise scale of things, obviously it goes up more, there's a bit more functionality, you can do some Active Directory syncing and everything like that. But even then it's not an exorbitant amount of money, and it's all fixed cost because of the call lines that are put into it, and the VoIP is all pre-built and there's no added cost on top of it.
Yeah, which is a key thing for people used to paying per minute charges for conference calls and all the rest.
Absolutely. And look, I think that the biggest thing to emphasise is the point of this is it's about collaboration, it's about people sharing stuff, but it's about making it easy. I said at the start, we're about simplifying how we connect people and devices. This is simplification, because in this day and age, with people running around, people working different offices, people working remotely, people juggling families, you need it to be easy to use, quick, get on there, share the thing, but have impact. And I think you've seen with that, it's a very impactful but very simple tool to use.
Have you got an iPad Pro version in the offing?
It is coming, yes.
And what are some of the stats around? I mean, I think you were mentioning to me before we started, 50,000 people a month or a day.
50,000 unique users a day.
Trialling it. And then you've had billions of sessions now.
Last year alone, just in excess of 30 million meetings, Join Me meetings were held in 2014.
Right.
So it's a lot.
So not billions, but still millions.
Yeah, still a lot of people.
Still
using
a lot.
it. So
yeah.
it's and I think for us here in APAC, we're really seeing that wave of success of this product, because you'd be amazed more and more people that you can locally speak to have used it, know it, love it. So yeah, that's great.
And what's the Apple Watch compatibility?
In what sense? To how much can it do? Or?
Oh no, well I mean, I remember there was a feature with Apple Watch where you can join a meeting from your watch.
Yeah.
So have you tried that yourself?
Once I get the right from my wife to start buying gadgets myself, I'll probably try. But look, I've seen it in play with the product over in the US. It's really cool. They're walking across the building, starting a meeting from their watch, so when they get there, it's all ready to go. So it's just that nice niche bit of having it on the fly.
And what's an example of an Australian customer who's had great success with Join Me?
Yeah, look, we've got Focus Software have started using it. They've used this for a little while, but they've really increased their usage lately. And look, the good thing about Focus Software is, and this is where it really rams home the importance of this simplification of connecting people. These guys saw a 50% decrease in travel costs because they can now do stuff remotely, and holding its hand to that was then a 30% increase in sales. So that's huge for companies to be able to reduce costs and increase revenue just by making the decision to take a really simple to use collaborative tool like Join Me.
And if you look at the future, I mean, I know we're focusing on the present today and the new features, and already futuristic features like connecting via your watch, etc. But over the next 5 or 10 years, do you think we'll be doing a lot more holographic meetings or using VR headsets, or is that all a bit too sci-fi still?
Oh, look, I think it is sci-fi, but I think it's where the dialogue is at the moment as we all plan to what the future is. And I think from a LogMeIn perspective, the future of Join Me is to continually to make this an easier thing for people to be doing. I think here, classically in Australia, we're a country that
tyranny of distance.
Exactly. And look, it's very similar to our colleagues in New Zealand. You drive everywhere. You've got a car, and it's not, for someone like me who's spent a career in sales, you sort of get on planes, you go and visit customers, you go. That's going to have to change, as we've seen with companies like Focus. You can make real financial implication changes if you go about doing this collaboration piece. But it's also about not just the sales focus, it's everyone. You've got people now that work from home in parts of the world parts of the country and parts of the world that are doing a marketing role for you or doing an IT role. This ability to open up, I think, is where we'll go, is to continue to push the boundaries as the concept of physically visiting people becomes either cost prohibitive or just not viable anymore from a time perspective.
Whilst I'm just thinking of it, has anybody asked for video capabilities to put into Join Me, or is that too distracting from the focusing on the meeting?
So, good question. We have video in the laptop version, which is fantastic. And the beauty of the video solution we did is it's only been released recently in the last 6 months or so, but it's really neat. It's a nice stylized bubbles. The people come on board. I use that one weekly on a call I have with Dublin every Friday. And it's fantastic. It's just...
And it's in the one program. You don't have to have Skype in a separate window. It's all integrated.
It all comes up on a screen with some bubbles and some people's faces. You talk. It's fantastic. So we'll keep pushing the boundary on that. And again, the beauty of that is it didn't add anything to the costs. We're not then saying, okay, to take the video piece, you then have to add on cost. Or to take the video piece, it is then a timed minute thing. We just build it into that same simple, really neat cost around running Join Me.
And it's not on iPads or iPhones yet because it's yet to be programmed, or?
Yeah, it's still in development. We go down that path. And look, as I said earlier, that's the beauty of LogMeIn, because this has got such a meteoric rise as a product. the investment and the boundaries we can push with Join Me are almost limitless, to use that cliche.
And if you need that, you can just get your laptop out. Everyone's got one, or your desktop. I mean,
absolutely. And look, the reality is for me personally, I do a lot of these meetings on my iPad and even on my iPhone. As I said earlier, when I'm driving or in transit.
Yeah.
Now I can't use a laptop there. Yeah. Most of the time, if you're going to be using video, you are sitting down. You might have a couple of people in the same room or people at laptops. But look, absolutely, that will go down that path, no doubt, in the future, making that even more accessible.
And as we get towards the end of the interview, I always like to change gears and just ask you if you could share with the audience a piece of advice that's helped you to get you where you are today.
Yeah, look,
the best piece of advice, what I normally say, you know.
Terrific. Look, I appreciate the changing gears, and I think for me it's a really good story. I've been with LogMeIn for just over 2 years now, and part of joining was the fact that when I met with them originally, I saw this very collaborative, very sort of pushing the boundaries company that was, about taking on, not risk, but taking on big challenges and attacking it, full force. And part of doing that, and it's still a very key part 2 years on, is about this people and collaboration. And probably the best advice I was ever given when I started on this whole management and leadership sort of career path was about people are the most important thing, and you've got to enjoy what you do and collaborate with what you do. Probably the word collaborate wasn't used back then, but it's just the coined phrase now.
Yeah.
So to come to a company like LogMeIn, where we practice what we preach, I've talked to you about how often I use this product. For me, that's the best advice, because what I can do now with the staff I've got here in the APAC region through to the staff in every other region, by nurturing good relationships, sharing, collaborating, picking each other's brains and being open to sort of discussions, whatever the time of the day is, whatever the region is, really sinks in well with that advice I had, which is people are important. Get with them, make sure the people around you enjoy what they're doing, learn off them, share with them. And I've landed on my feet here with this company because we get to do it daily and use our products.
Wonderful. So any final messages for iTWire viewers and readers and for your current and future customers?
Yeah, look, I think hopefully today you've seen that Join Me is a really accessible tool. And I think the most important thing is, as we said, there's 50,000 unique users trying it every day. And some of the people that are going to be seeing this are probably those same people. But I think the era is coming where this is a really simple leap to make to get into using this product more and more, to pass it through for adoption across your business, whether that business is a 5-person business through to a 3,500 people. It really doesn't matter with Join Me. It's about what best works for you. In the case of, if we look at companies like Focus, how are you going to reduce costs? How are you going to increase sales? What are the tools going to help that? And what better one to have than Join Me, which is simple, easy to use, multiple devices, and pushing the boundary of how you can collaborate regardless where anyone is.
Thank you, Dan, and I'm glad you didn't say, I hope you will join me.
No, I just try and steer clear of all the obvious ones, but I can certainly put that in an email to you.
No worries. Well, best of luck, and thanks for taking the time with us today.
Appreciate your time today.